This is November the 5th, 2002. We're at the home of Al and Cobby Klingenfus, Highway 22, Crestwood, Kentucky. Cobby, could you give us your complete name?
My name is Etta Cobb McAllister Klingenfus.
And your date of birth?
Date of birth is August the 3rd, 1916.
And where were you born?
In Lincoln County, Kentucky.
And what were your parents' names?
My dad's name was Joe, and my mama's name was Catherine and McAllister. And Mama was Baldwin. I guess I could put that in there. She would be proud.
Where did you go to school?
I went to school at Stanford, Kentucky, and for college I went to Burnell Girls College in Georgia, and then to Western.
And what did you study? What did you study in college?
My majors were English, art, and a lot of social studies and things of that kind.
Tell us about when you grew up. What did your parents do for a living?
They had a farm, and I helped Dad a lot on the farm. My brother didn't like farm, so I helped him. He had beef cattle and sheep and things of that kind. So I liked that.
How many brothers and sisters did you
I
have?
had one brother and one sister.
And what were their names?
My brother loved all kinds of mechanics. He was really good on radio and things of that kind. He had one of the very first radios in Lincoln County. One tube stuck up like that. We all fought over it. And my sister went to college in North Carolina, and she married Dick Jett in Richmond, Kentucky. And,
Do you remember your grandparents?
oh yes, my grandmother was very special. My granddaddy was shot when I was 3 years old. He had been a sheriff in Lincoln County for 19 years, and this man wanted that position, shot him as he went into the drugstore.
What were their names?
His name was Baldwin, and I was trying to think of Granddad's first name, blank right this second, and Mama's name was Catherine Baldwin. Of course, and Grandma's name was Grandma. So,
what did he do for a living?
our grandparents, he was a sheriff, and then Mama raised a bunch of girls. She had 5 girls and 1 boy, and but my dad and Mom we were always farm oriented, and
We had a half sister too. You know,
Mother was an artist, and she lost her first husband. That's where she went to St. Louis to China painting, and came back home and made a living with us for our 2 little other girls.
What do you remember about going to school?
I was down at Burnell in 1936. They had a tornado that ripped that school apart. So I didn't go back to Georgia next year. I went to Western. And, but I loved it. Made a lot of friends. And I'd love for the kids to be able to go there sometime.
Do you remember your house when you were growing up?
Very much.
Did you have electricity?
They built a new house when I was 1 year old. They built a new house. And when I was 15, it burned. I was still in high school. And so we lived with an aunt of mine in town for about 2 weeks, and they built up the old cabin down below where the house burned. And we lived in that all one summer while they built the other house. So this makes a second house, third house. Third house has been on that foundation. And,
Did you have electricity the whole time?
we didn't have electricity. We had carbide lights. And they pumped the water in there somewhere. I'm not sure we had running water, but I'm not sure. They just had a pump.
Well, right.
Yeah.
Do you remember when you got electricity the first time?
Wasn't home.
You weren't.
I was up here when we got the first electricity. Al and I were married by that time.
When did you meet Al?
Uh-oh.
Met Al in 1941.
Well,
And they were playing ball up at school. And got to see him. He was a catcher. I couldn't see him behind that. But I saw more getting throwing bases. But I didn't see Al that first
yeah,
time.
I did.
And he saw his knees.
And then did he ask you out?
Well, that was about a year later.
Well,
And we went over to, we started out where at school.
hmm?
We started out and then went over to, he's going to have to answer some of these questions.
I forgot.
I forgot. Oh,
How many years have you been married?
well, the little bee's 59.
59?
Yeah,
It is.
it has been 60.
It'll be
Yeah,
60.
it's in the 60th year now.
Okay.
So
We'll ask Al a few questions
yeah,
now.
ask him some of these. You'll get them quicker than I will.
No.
Al, what is your full name?
Alfred and Etta Klingenfus.
And what's your date of birth?
October 5th, 1918.
And where were you born?
Born on the farm in Crestwood. That's now a school system.
And what were your parents' names?
Well, Emil and my dad and Nettie Hampton.
And where were they born?
Well, Dad was born, wait a minute now, I don't know exactly. He was 4 years old when
He was born in the United States.
Yeah, he was born in Otisca, Indiana, I think. I'm not sure about that. You know about that?
And what about your mother?
She was born and raised in Old County, in Crestwood area.
Do you know anything about your grandparents?
Well, which set you want to know? Well, my dad came, and my granddad and grandmother Klingenfus came from Switzerland in 1881. I'm not sure about that date. Somewhere in there. And Dad was born over here, and Aunt Emma, our sister, was born over here after that. They came over with 6 children, and they came over from Switzerland.
And do you remember where your grandparents came from?
Yeah, no, do I remember? No, I wasn't old enough to remember where they came from, but I mean, I remember them. I can't remember my grandfather very much. I was just 3 years old when he died. And he died at Crestwood in the old home place up there.
And where was he born?
And he was born in Switzerland,
What town?
in Schaffhausen, in the canton of Schaffhausen, Switzerland. And they lived in a little area, what do you call that place?
What did they do over in Switzerland?
He ran a winery, and he grew grapes, and he was also a butcher, and just general things like that.
Do you remember what year he came over?
And I'm not sure about this date, 1881, I think, somewhere like that.
And his wife's maiden name was Stahl,
Stahl, yeah, Elise Stahl.
At least,
and they were going to change their name when they came over, or I've heard the story.
I never heard about that.
That they thought they might change it to Stahl because it was shorter than Klingenfus.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
That's what my dad said.
That's new stuff.
Tell us what it was like growing up on the farm in Crestwood.
Hard work.
What kind of crops did you
Yeah,
raise?
We grew a lot of onions and onion seed and onion sets. That was our main thing. We grew in the vegetable line. We ran a dairy. Dad raised hogs, mainly for our own food, but he would sell some and put up hay and feed and grain for the dairy.
How did you work the ground?
You know, with mules and horses.
Do you remember the mule's name?
Oh yeah, Jim. And one of them, and Alice. And I don't know. I don't remember now. Been too long ago.
What did you do with the onions after you raised them?
Well, most times we sold them, and some of them we grew the seed. We grew the large onions that we set out for that seed, and then we grew the sets that came from the seed. And there were 3 processes. That's mainly what we grew. And that grew potatoes too, potatoes and corn, sweet potatoes, stuff like that.
Where did you have to take the onions to sell them?
He took them to Louisville, mainly. To the market down there, and then they had a farm market in Louisville, and he drove the horses down there in the wagon with potatoes or whatever he had, products he had, and he would stay down there and sell them out right off the street, and then come back home. That was probably about 20 miles that he'd have to drive horses with a wagon.
You raised potatoes too?
Yeah. He wasn't, well, we didn't have that big a farm to grow a whole lot of things, but we always grew potatoes and to sell too.
Strawberries?
Yeah, strawberries, and he had a vineyard and an orchard.
Do you remember the first time you got a tractor?
Well, I think it was after World War II, in about 1945 or 6, somewhere along there. We had an order in for one all during the war and didn't get it until after the war was over.
What kind did you finally
It
buy?
was a little 8-and Ford. It was a 9-and Ford. It was before the 8-ends were put out. It had a side-mounted motor on it. And we put up most of our hay and baled most of our hay.
Now at that point, did you get rid of the mules? Or you kept the
Well, we
mules?
kept them for a long time, but we didn't. After we once got a tractor, of course, that took the place of. It was really hard work for them.
You milked the cows by hand until you got electricity?
Yeah.
How many did you milk?
Well, when we were milking about 35, 40 head when Brother Carl went in service, and then we were lucky enough to get a milker, mechanical milker, which helped us out.
Milked one at a time?
Oh well, we milked them in a barn
In a stanchion?
stanchion.
How did you keep the milk cool?
Hauled it down to a spring. Had a water trough that kept it cold, kept the water cool, and then we'd go back down the next day and get it and take it out to the truck to pick up in cans, of course. Slow process, hard job.
Do you remember the first time you got electricity?
Yes, I do. It was in 1931. The line came through after they built the highway from Crestwood to LaGrange, and it was so expensive then that we didn't get it right at the time they brought it through. And they wanted, I think it was $1,000 to put 3 poles up and run it back there to us. And no way, the farm wasn't worth $1,000 hardly at that time. But anyway, they finally made a deal with us. If we would buy an electric stove and a refrigerator and use it, they wouldn't charge us anything, so they ran it back there free of charge for that, which was a pretty good deal, we thought, at that time.
So from that point forward, you didn't have to use kerosene to...
No, we didn't use that anymore. And when they first got the refrigerator, they just used it in the summertime and put it away in the winter.
Didn't use it in the wintertime?
No. They didn't want to use that electricity. They didn't have money to buy the electricity. That was
Cool enough.
So you had your lights and your stove and your refrigerator?
Yeah, that was right in the deepest part of the Depression in 1930, 31, when we were barely able to get by with anything at that time.
What did you heat with?
Well, mostly wood.
Even after you got electricity?
Yeah. Yeah, we never
You think about
got, well, the old house, I don't believe it ever had a modern type furnace, and it had no coal burning furnace in it.
What about hot water? Did you have a hot water heater?
Well, not in the winter time. We got in summertime, we had a tank out the back and let the sun hit it and take showers with that. But we didn't have hot water probably till, I guess it was maybe 2 years after we got electricity.
And Grandma washed the clothes by hand?
Yeah, oh yeah. Up until when we finally bought an electric washing machine. It was a pride and joy then, those days.
What did you do at night? You didn't have any TV, you didn't have radio. What did you do at night?
Well, just sit around and talk to her. We didn't do very much. We didn't have any picture shows or any place to go very much at that time. I guess we had a radio. When we finally got electricity, we had good radios. Before that time, we tried to have battery ones, and they weren't too good. The battery was always down.
Did you go to LaGrange a lot, or would you go to Louisville?
We about equal, I guess. About that time, we still had the interurban car that ran from Louisville to LaGrange.
That was a streetcar?
Streetcar, yeah. And,
what did they charge?
It ran. I think it was about 25 cents to Louisville. Of course, a lot of people worked all day for $1 about that time. $1 a day.
You mentioned you had a brother, Carl.
Yeah.
How many other brothers and sisters did you?
I had another brother and another sister. Morgan was 6 years younger than me. And then my sister, Flossie, was, she died when, I guess,
98, 99?
somewhere along in there, somewhere. And Morgan died when he was about 50 years old. He died in 1974.
And then Martha?
And Martha's
the youngest.
married Joe Singer, and he's lived in Florida.
What do you remember about going to school?
Well, when I first went, we were either walked or they took us. If it was bad weather, they took us in horse and buggy.
How far away was the school?
It was about 3/4 of a mile, somewhere along there. They just tore the old school building down, and it's been about 3 or 4 years ago they tore the old building down. Built a new one down there.
And you went all through school at that one school?
Yeah. Right. I never, yeah, went through high school, the 12th grade school there.
You all used to kill your own hogs.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Shoot.
Shoot them? Then what do you explain how you did that?
Well, they would shoot them and they'd bleed them, and they would scald the hair off of them.
What did you put them in? You have a big bag?
They had a big tub that they could build fire underneath of it.
Put a fire under it and get it hot?
And get it hot at about 150 degrees, and would take the hair off. And you would hang them up on poles out.
Kill one a year, or how often did you?
They usually just kill them once a year. When we got a little older, maybe a couple of times. You'd kill as many as 8 or 10, maybe up to 12 or 13.
Could you sell those to other people?
No.
You just used them yourself?
That's when all 5 of us were kids were still home. We ate pretty heavy.
How did you store the meat?
It was usually salt, cured with salt and sugar, cured some of it, and then it was smoked. Of course, sausage, was made. Usually eat that up first, Kill them in the wintertime, and you didn't need refrigeration,
Did you make your own wine?
Yeah. Yeah, we raised our own grapes. And of course, grandparents came from Switzerland, and they drank wine like we drank soft drinks. They put it on the table. It was everyday occurrence. They had.
How much wine would you make at a time?
Oh, they would make usual thing, maybe 2 or 3 barrels, and keep it. It would last all year. 4 or 5 people.
You had a cellar under the house?
Yeah, right.
Then you had a smokehouse?
Yeah. Yeah. Usually used maple wood.
Did you have an ice house too? Was there an ice?
No, not as a lot of people had them where they made ice on it. Made ice off of ponds and put it in an ice house and pack it in sawdust and whatever. Straw.
You used to have icemen that would come to some of the houses?
Hmm.
They used to have icemen that would come deliver the ice?
Oh yeah.
But you had your own?
That was in summertime, summertime, but we never had an ice house. That wasn't too sanitary because it was taken off of a pond, and you couldn't very well use that just like we would use ice nowadays that you would buy.
When you were growing up, what was a real treat? What?
A real treat?
Uh-huh.
Oh, I guess. Going to fair, going in the summertime, of course, and basketball.
Did Oldham County have a fair?
Have a what?
Oldham County Fair?
Yeah, right. Yeah, they've had it. Well, not when I was really young, I guess. It probably, I don't know how old the county fair was. They would have some kind of little show, but it wouldn't be like as big as it is now. Usually, we used to go to the state fair. They had an old Chevrolet 1922, I believe it was, model, and it had a canvas top on it, you know. I remember one time it was we were planning on going to the fair, and it was really big cloud coming in that morning. So they said, well, they're going to have to fix the curtains for the side curtains on it. So, and they used to have what's called isinglass curtains for them. Some of them didn't have them, so they had to sew them up with cloths to keep the rain. And that, I remember one time that we were in a storm and it blew the top off of the car. And part of it fell down in between the front seat and the back seat. You couldn't see mom and dad was in the front seat. And us kids in the back. Yeah, it was wild.
Do you remember the first car that you ever bought?
Let's see. Yeah, I had a Model A. We did have a Model T before that, and then we had a Model A and a Ford, and that was in 29 and 30, somewhere along in there.
What would a Model A cost back then?
Model A's were probably $600, $700. When they were higher than the Model T's. You could get a Model T for about $300 or $400 new ones. Of course, that dollar was a lot more valuable than it is now.
Now, Cobby said that you two met in 1941.
Yeah.
You were playing baseball.
Yeah, she said it was. I don't know, I didn't see her.
Softball.
Softball, yeah. Yeah, we had a softball team that played at Crestwood on the school grounds. But she said she saw me. I don't know what she took. I don't know what she saw in me, but it was.
She must have liked it. He was a catcher?
So you couldn't see.
But, we met in Crestwood, at Crestwood Christian Church over there. Pierce Clover was a friend of mine, and we were ushers that particular Sunday, and we saw this young lady coming down the walk, and Pierce says, "Well, who's that?" I said, "I don't know. I never saw her before in my life." And so anyway, when the preacher, they told her what class to take, and when they got around there, they told me to introduce her. I said, "Well, I don't know her." And so we had to introduce ourselves anyway. But that kind of gave me a little spark, I guess.
Yeah.
And then how much longer before you were married?
Oh, that was probably 2 years. We dated quite a long time. Well, I always threatened having to go in service, and I wasn't figuring on doing that. But
Married.
I looked out of it, I guess. If there was such thing as luck, I don't know.
When you went out on a date, where would you go?
Well, they had a...
Evergreen.
You want to take those?
You can take one.
Well, I don't remember where...
Oh, yes, he does.
They had a...
Me too.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, he had this man who had a real good band there, Evergreens.
Where was
That
Evergreen?
was in Middletown. You go to, before you get to Laurel.
Honky tonk, in other words.
And it was a nice, real nice honky tonk. And this man had a great big bass. No one called
Fiddle.
well, didn't call them fiddles, bass.
Drums?
Bass fiddle.
And bass fiddle, I guess you would call it then. It was any, you know, you like that. And he was really had it all fixed up. He just had gotten it fixed. And he was having more fun playing with that. And he'd spin it around and then he'd play it more, you know. First thing you know, that thing slipped off of the bandstand and just broke it all to pieces. We felt so sorry for him, and we thought it was funny too. But we really felt sorry for that man. He spent all that money in there, he just tore it completely up. But we went over and sat down after the music all stopped. We went over and sat at the table, and he told me all about his family, his brothers and his sisters, and why he wasn't in service. And he had to be there on the farm to help. Morgan was too young, and the girls weren't able to do that, and so he stayed to help his dad. And he's never been sorry about that, I don't think. And so we had to court bicycles. We went everywhere on bicycles. I had a borrowed one, and so we'd go around to Pee Wee Valley and places and get ice cream cone or something, and take out off again.
Really splurged, didn't we?
Yeah, that was fun.
What kind of dances did you do?
Well, at that time, there weren't many boys around, but later, the boys, soldiers came in. They were down here at, where were they? Westport? No. They were at
Worthington, I think. Yeah. They had a
group of soldiers settling
Yeah.
down here in Middletown somewhere, and I'm not sure just where it
at
was.
Worthington.
Worthington, okay, at Worthington. And they would come and play basketball and all of us with the boys. And we had our basketball was up in the top story of Crestwood High School. And you had no place to sit. You leaned against the wall. And that's the
One
safest
row of
place you
chairs
could
over
find.
there.
No chairs. And so that's where we played ball, was up there. And sometimes they would mistake your head for a basketball.
Oh, come on.
Grab your head, twist it around. Oh, you couldn't see very good up there. It was kind of a dark place. But
Did you know
they had a lot of
this is
fun.
being recorded?
They could cut it down in dark spots too.
Cobby, how did you get from Lincoln County up to Oldham County?
Well, I was teaching school down in Lincoln County, and so I called or got in touch with our professor at Western and asked him if he had another opening, and he told me about Oldham County. So that sounded pretty good, and
So where did you live when you were first
I
teaching?
room with Mrs. Runyon, well, Mrs. Amp Squires, with the Squires first, there on 393, the old 393, and for about
In Crestwood.
about a year to with her in our room with Mrs. Runyon, and we started dating while I was at Miss Squires. That was real nice, and she let me have the bicycle. Margaret wasn't there at the time.
How long did you teach school?
Taught school at Crestwood 4 years, and I taught 4 years in Lincoln County.
What grade?
Third grade at Crestwood, first, second, and third up in the mountains of Broughtontown. Broughtontown was in the, not in the heart of the mountains, but right at the edge of the mountains. you were having to really go up the hill. But that was an interesting place. Those children they heard of train whistles, but they had never seen a train. They'd never seen a black person. And we had a black man to come up there and build our new school building. And they were really excited. And so I started reading them stories about black children and all, and they began to like him, and they'd go out there, and he loved to talk to them. So that was real nice. I thought I was real tickled about that.
Now, when you married, you couldn't teach anymore, could you? Could you teach once
At that time, I don't believe you could.
You had to quit teaching.
All the teachers were single.
Because of during the war.
Men,
During the war, they could.
they stopped that during the war and allowed you to.
Boy, you taught all the time, 4 years. We were
Yeah, I
married.
taught 4 years after I married. And
We,
Crestwood.
yeah.
So they let you teach, even though you were married?
Yeah,
Yeah, that was because of the war.
Because
yeah.
then it stopped again.
And they changed that.
I think they just extended that ban on it, or,
Where did you live after you got married?
on the Brownsburg Road, from Crestwood Road to Brownsburg.
393?
393.
Shelburne Oaks.
It was they have a subdivision there now called Shelburne Oaks. In this old house that was set pretty close to the road. Pretty nice little house.
Is that where Corky and all the boys were born?
Corky and Ricky.
Yeah,
Corky and Ricky?
Corky and Ricky, yeah. And the farm, it was 60 acres in that farm, and it joined our farm. And just kind of looked into that.
Did you have a dairy over there?
No. I raised a few hogs there, but not in dairy. We grazed
Kept,
cattle,
heifers.
dairy cattle.
Kept the heifers and
Then did you go over to,
When we had this, Morgan and I bought 157 acres, I think it was, over at Brownsburg, where I-71 is now. And we lived over there we built a house and lived over there for 9 years. And then the road came through and split the farm up, and we wasn't suitable to farm anymore. It wasn't feasible to farm it.
Did you have a dairy over there?
No, we kept a lot of cattle on it and things like that. And then I was still farming with Dad and Morgan then, and Carl too for a while when he first got out of school.
and then you moved from there to
Yeah, we
Brownsville?
sold that. I took my part of it and made a down payment on the farm that we lived for 39 years on. That was between Centerfield and Ballardsville.
And then you got back into
And we
the
still-
dairy.
We sold
Yeah.
it, we kept 10 acres off the farm, Jeff and Connie, I gave them a lot off of it, and they built a house on it after several years ago. So after they sold the farm, they sold me the house and sold us the house, and we kept 10 acres, so we're
That's
still
what-
living on part of it.
And so that's where you are now, it's on the farm.
Right,
And the school board thought
yeah,
the farm to
yeah.
go into high school, middle school, grade school.
Mm, yeah. We also bought the home farm at Crestwood.
school
The
system.
school
School
system.
system, yeah. Yes, that was after Dad died, and Dad died in 1976, I think it was. And we sold it to the school board. They came to us when they found out they were having it for sale.
You talked about your dad, your mom was a Hampton,
Yeah,
and they grew up in Oldham County?
Yeah, right. Yeah, they lived in Crestwood.
How many brothers and sisters did she have?
She had 2 brothers and two sisters. One sister.
What were their names? You know?
No, Roy and Forey Hampton. And Beulah was, she married Jess Apple.
What did they do for a living, the Hamptons?
Well, Grandpa Hampton was a carpenter. He was an excellent carpenter. And Forey was a good, his son, his mom's brother. And he was a good carpenter too, and that's what they did all their life.
Was your mom a pretty good cook?
Dad was Granddad was kind of an inventor. And he made the first radio in Crestwood. Back there and they had back they had the prize fight of Jack Dempsey and Gene Tooney, and he made a loudspeaker outside. That was in, I think, about 1930s or somewhere along in there. And anyway, they knew he was going to have it out there, and people crowded out there to hear that radio, first radio in Crestwood. And he put it together himself.
He and JoJo were good buddies.
And he also invented ice tones that they put ice off of ponds into ice houses to keep it for summers. And he sold that for $1,000. The patent on it sold for $1,000. $1,000 would buy a pretty nice farm back there then. But anyway, that's where he kind of got started. He was postmaster of Crestwood for years. Late 20s and 30s, early 30s.
And Grandma, she kept the house and raised some dogs too, I believe?
Yeah, she had a kennel and had the Cocker Spaniels.
And she would sell every year?
Yeah. And they raised turkeys and chickens and eggs, hatching eggs.
Huh. Well, let me see. We've got some pictures we want to put on here too, don't we? Let me see.
Mother and Daddy on our farm in Lincoln County, Kentucky. Dad's name is Joe, and Mother's name was Catherine McAllister. And Dad's name was McAllister. Mother's name was Walkman until she
I
married.
don't want them yet.
That's my mother, Catherine
You weren't
McAllister.
married yet.
And it is me, and I was called Cobby McAllister. And that's my dog, and I think she was called Lady, if I'm not mistaken. I had so many of them. The house is in Lincoln County and near Stanford, Kentucky. And this is we visited Grandma and Granddaddy. And these are Ricky and Corky. Ricky's the little one.
This is Ricky?
That's Ricky. And this is Corky right here. Corky's right here.
Yeah.
Now these others are nieces and nephews of mine.
That's Jody?
Jody and Catherine, and that's Joanna behind him. Now I'm not sure who that is over there on that.
Bookmobile.
I ran the bookmobile for about 2 years. And I went all over the county, especially up in Brownsburg, and that was during the time that I-71 was being built. And we had trucks loaded with rocks that you had to compete with all the time when you were driving around the county. And they accused me of knocking in the rocks to get out of the way. This is Al and I, back when we were going together. And he made the belt out of walnuts. That you had to cut those little narrow straps, and he ran ribbon through the holes. And on the end of the ribbon was one full nut. This is really Shelburne Oaks on 393 as you go towards Brownsboro. And it was close enough to Granddaddy's farm, the dairy farm, that we rented it, and Al would go back and forth to the farm to work. And this is Flossie and Martha sitting on the steps.
When you married, this is your first?
And that's our first home. When we first married, we lived there.
From left to right is my mom, Nettie, and sister Flossie, and brother Carl when he was in service, and my dad and Martha. That's a picture of Martha and one of the horses that we used on the farm. We loved chicken.
Who is this?
Martha. This is old family home on the farm at which is now South Oldham High School and grade school and whatever. Lived there first before we did. When I was about 17 years old. This is Al going into the milking barn where we milked the cows. We were putting in hay in the old barn that was pulled up by a team of horses. You don't see them, but they're on the back of the barn, and they pulled this load of hay up in there, and they would trip, and you could trip it, and we'd come back and get another load with 2 or 3 truckloads there ready to go in. Looks like. Now, this is my over on the right is my grandmother from Switzerland, and then over on the left is Aunt Mary and Carl, my brother Carl.
What's the house?
And this is a house that all 5 of us kids were born in that one room. On this house. Well,
who's in that picture?
Well, on the one on the left, he was crippled.
Al?
He had I was named after him. And Uncle Jake, Uncle Will Thomas, that's Aunt Minnie's husband. And down in front is George Thomas and Emma Thomas. And she's still living. She's 103 years old.
Emma.
It's my first cousin right there. And that's George Boots. And Dad is behind Emma there with his hat. He always had a hat that curled up like that. And I don't know who this is.
Carl didn't
Edna White. I think at that time he,
Mary.
let's see.
And then Aunt Mary on the end.
Aunt Mary, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, that's Aunt Mary.
And what does
Who is
that
this?
say? Ruth. Well, I don't know. What does that say?
Aunt Emma
Ross.
Aunt Emma Ross.
Yeah.
And she was a chiropractor.
Yeah.
You and Carl on the adjustment.
Yeah. This is my grandmother. She's reading the Bible out in German out to Aunt Mary. The kids could all speak fluent German. Very, very so. My daddy could just speak all day, just nothing but German.
Could she speak English?
She wouldn't. Daddy says she was just stubborn, wouldn't speak, but she was well educated and really in the Bible too. She was real.
This is Elise.
Yeah, my daddy's mother. I can't name them really. I think the one down on the end is Uncle Jake.
And this is the home place?
Yeah, right. And this one on this end is Uncle Al. No, on the side.
On the right.
But I don't know the one in the middle or the one that's got his back turned to me. That's the old home place up at Crestwood, and that's my mom. And we just had bought that. That's all the picture of the car in it. Yeah. Oh, an old Model A Ford truck we had. We called that an onion special. And
Morgan.
That's Morgan driving a bull into the barn, I guess. He was well bred. They used him in the Breeders Association. There's hogs that have been slaughtered for the meat.
You had to scrape the
Yeah,
hide.
They used hot water to about 150 degrees. It would take the
Hair.
It would make the hair slip, and then they would hang them up like that, and gut them and have the meat ready to work for the next day. They usually would leave it out in the cold during the night, because most time you picked a good time in cold weather to kill them. That's Dad milking the cows. He got 2 buckets. He's probably carrying the milk out. And we had a lot of Jersey cattle at that time. Just beginning to get a few Holsteins.
That's you over here in the corner.
One on the left is Al. One in the middle is Morgan, and one on the other side is Carl. I think this was when he was in. I believe he has a uniform on there, doesn't he? Is that Army?
No, just part of it if you
Carl?
did.
What were you doing there?
Cultivating those onion sets. We had three cultivators. We would go out there and cultivate those fields. That's onion seed in full bloom. It's almost ready to cut for seed, and we grew that stuff by the acres, maybe. That's 10, 12, 15 acres of it probably. Depends on the.
This is right where the school is now.
Yes, and that's a new house that was built. This must have been taken about 1940.
It's a highway up there.
That's a new house across the road that was one that we had built ourselves.
Oh,
This is orchard grass that was ready to cut for seeds. It was cut with a binder and then put it in chops, and then after it dried, we'd take it to a thrash machine and pull up there in the field and thrash the seed out of it. This orchard grass.
Oldham County was.
It was grown for seed, and
one of the biggest.
it was one time Oldham County was the top orchard grass seed growing area in the nation, all that world, I guess. Okay, that's one in back is my Uncle Al. In front of him is Aunt Minnie, and then over on is Dad and Aunt Amelia. Aunt Meal.
Aunt Meal.
What another?
Corky and myself, and that's Ricky in the center, and Al, and that's Jerry down in front of Al, and this is Billy, and this is Jim.
Yeah.
That's all of us.
Is this the only picture you have of Billy Mack?
No, I got a
Oh, yeah.
whole big bunch of them.
Look,
We got him playing with the train and eating, scrape. You love to
was
scrape
born
pan,
with
chop. You make a pan. He wanted to scrape that.
he was born with a section of intestines that had no function, and they had when he was just a little over a month old, they had to operate on him, and they put him a colostomy in, and he lived with that till he was operated on, and they was going to put it back into the norm, and he suddenly died and never did know exactly what happened to him.
And at what age? What year was that?
He was about 20.
He lived about 6
3
days.
months old, almost 2 years old. Well, he died in July, and his birthday was in August. So,
He wasn't quite 2 years old.
big blow. 50th wedding anniversary, and that's Mom and I in front, and of course, and left to right is Corky and Ricky and Jerry and Jeff.
Now, what do each one of the kids do now?
Well, Corky's a minister in church in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Ricky's his maintenance chairman or boss for a festival home down in Linden, and Jerry works as a metallurgist for Steel Technology, and Jeff works for CSX Railroad now.
Left to right.
This is
Grandkids.
grandchildren
Corky, Ricky.
of Corky and
No.
of our family.
No,
Well, my sister Flossie and Al and Cobby and Ruth and Carl and Martha.
I love that. First year.
This is the old home place that we lived for 39 years there, and it was was sold to the school board, and they decided rather than repair it, they would just burn it. So it was about 2 years ago they burned it.
This is at Ballardsville.
This was at Ballardsville.
Here's our family out there.
Originally we had 212 acres there.
Do you know any history on that house?
Huh?
How old that house is?
Oh, the front part of it is log is covered with for the weatherboarding, and it was built in about 1835. And the rest of it was a back wing added onto it, and it's probably over 100 years old itself.
All right, this is Al and Cobby, and we'd been married about 3 or 4 years when this picture was taken. And farming, and teaching school. I taught school for about 2 years.
This has been an interview of Al and Etta family, and hope you enjoyed it for the generations to follow. And we're very proud of this family. They've all done very well and never caused us any problems. And we hope the rest of the generations follow in our footsteps.